All right. Sometimes after we show the card tricks, we get into a conversation, and from time to time, we've had people that said, "Oh, you have your religion, we have ours." They might be involved with some organization that is going about to establish our own righteousness by works, which is not right. And we ourselves were born again. We have a righteousness which answers the demands of God's law and justice by the imputed righteousness of Jesus Christ. And sometimes I kind of like fill them out and I say, well, do you think salvation is 50% works and 50% faith? And, just to use that to draw them into a conversation. Sometimes I'll say that, and then I'll give a second option. Or is it more like 75% faith and 25% works? Give them a couple options, and just to fill them out, And if they get it wrong, then I proceed to try to tell them that, salvation's a free gift, and it's all by faith in Jesus Christ. That's how you get saved. You can't work your way to heaven. And then they usually, sometimes they usually say, well, you got your religion, we got ours, kind of thing. I know you've heard it before. And so I like to use illustrations and object lessons in my dealings with people. And what I do sometimes is I just pretend. I've used this little method for many years. I just pretend, okay? And I usually pull a set of keys out of my pocket. It can be house keys, car keys, whatever. It doesn't matter. I usually take these keys and I just throw them on the table or whatever. And I say to them, granted I'm pretending, I say to them, if God says these keys are a watermelon, what is it? And they usually say, oh, it's keys. And then I say, no. If God says that's a watermelon, what is it? And they say, oh, no, it's keys, that's keys. And then I go, oh, no, you don't understand. If God says this is a watermelon, what is it? And you're trying to get them to understand that if God says it's something, then it's something, regardless of what you've been taught all your life. You've been taught all your life that these are car keys or house keys or whatever. You've been taught that all your life. And then all of a sudden you get the revelation that no, it's not keys. This is a watermelon. And so the correct answer would be, oh, it's a watermelon. I've dealt with many people using the same little object lesson. And just after going through it a couple times, they catch on and say, I understand. You're right. If God says it's a watermelon, then it's a watermelon. But, if you don't have keys in your pocket, you can pull out an ink pen. It can be any object. It doesn't matter. You can use any object and just throw it on the table and says, okay, if God says that's a watermelon, what is it? Get them to admit it. Just say, God says that's a watermelon, then what is it? You got to get them to understand it doesn't matter what they've heard in the past. It's what does the Bible say? What does God tell you in His Word? If God tells you salvation is a free gift, then it's free. If you're a part of an organization that's been teaching a false gospel, then you need to get clear of that organization. You need to get born again. And you get that as a free gift. You don't get that by working your way to heaven. And there's many isms out there that promote works-based salvation. And you can't get saved by works. There's no way. For by grace are you saved through faith. That's in Ephesians 2, 8 and 9. For by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is a gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. And real easy. That's a real easy verse to memorize. You can just keep that little object lesson right there. And it can even follow the card tricks. I've got some card tricks on my YouTube channel. And once you get into a conversation, you can pull an object lesson out. And what you're doing with an object lesson is you're reinforcing something. And it's pretty good. Once they understand that, then they can be directed towards Calvary more. Get them to look at some verses and see exactly what does God say about how to get saved. All right, well, thank you very much for watching. Hope this is a blessing to you.